Happy Friday, Miami. This is Buy, Sell, Hold, a real estate podcast about what's going on in Miami as well as the South Florida area. I'm Peter Zalewski. I'm a condo consultant. I'm also the founder of the Miami Condo Investing Club. I'm going to pass the baton over to the moderator, the host of the show, no one else than Daniel Hernandez. He works over at Compass Real Estate. He does single family houses as well as condos, and his office is over in Coconut Grove. So next time you go over to Monty's, make sure you pop in there, invite him to lunch, and give him the tab. That being said, what's up, Daniel?
What's up, Pete? Well, I'm so happy that you're telling people to buy me lunch because Monty's. I think you're starting to rub off on me. Monty's is expensive for a divey place on the bay. Yeah.
Yes,
So
it is.
maybe I don't know. Maybe we tell Ken Billions to take us out to lunch at Monty's. I'm kidding. The food's not that great. Take us to that Oriental Mart over there on Coral Way. Like we've been pleading with him. Maybe because he's been out in the news, he might be more inclined to hang out with us. Maybe not.
You would
Actually,
think so.
maybe
I
it's
mean, his real estate advisors, I'm not sure that they necessarily know what the hell's going on. But Ken, if you're listening, Ken Griffin, if you're listening, you want advice about real estate market, you don't want to overpay like you have, you need to start watching this show every Friday at 4 o'clock.
I couldn't agree with you more, Peter. And with that, as Peter mentioned, my name is Daniel Hernandez. If you're joining us for the first time, Peter, episode number 25. It is November the 7th, 2025. You called me on a lowly evening sometime in late April, May, and you said, Daniel, I want to do this podcast with you. And I said, podcast? Everybody's doing a podcast. And you say, no, nobody's doing it like we're going to do it. And guys,
That's
we've
right.
been here for 25 weeks now. We've gone on trips. Peter's done this, I've done that, and we never, ever leave you guys hanging. We will be here at 4 o'clock every Friday. Sometimes we might have to pre-record, but we endeavor not to. So if you're joining us for the first time today, it's Buy, Sell, Hold Miami. And what we do is we pick 5 topics. Sometimes it's 4, sometimes it's 6, but normally 5 topics, and we dedicate 7 minutes to discussing them. If we go a little bit over, that's fine because we got you for an hour. And at the end of every topic, we're either going to buy, we're going to sell, or we're going to hold because we don't have all the information. Well, we have a lot of data, and Peter's got a lot of data. Sometimes we don't know, and we punt it. So with that, Pete, condos keep on keeping on. There's a lot happening. We got groundbreakings. We got terminations. What's happened in the past week? I mean, we're going to talk about elections later, but the real estate development market keeps on churning.
Listen, if you're looking at the headlines, especially coming out of the Real Deals big event that went on this week, you would think that we are in a tremendous, fantastic market. I would push back and say everybody realizes it's make it or break it. Let's throw it against the wall right now. Anything we plan to do, we better get it going right now because we don't know what it's going to be like a year from now. Why is that? It's based on what's happened economically. Remember back in August, Daniel, we were talking about how Jerome Powell, the Federal Reserve, old man Powell, he was talking about there was some kind of job issue coming, and everybody said, job issue, we're dealing with inflation. And he pivoted away from inflation, and all of a sudden he started cutting interest rates. He's done it 2 times since August. And now we're getting data saying now this is the worst job market in decades. And then consumer confidence hasn't been this bad since before I was born in the 1970s, early 70s.
Wow, so you're really that old? You look pretty good. I saw a picture of you. I saw a picture of you with hair the other day, and I had to do a double take from the Michael Moore movie.
I put it in the so I launched a brand new podcast that comes out on Thursday about the stress market, and I sprinkled in a little bit of that with the hair from the Michael Moore movie. Yeah, it's a little bit of a different
look.
Look.
People going like this?
Well, what about did you see? Well, you didn't see it, but I also had a 60 Minutes piece in there. Did you see Scott Pelley, the guy who used to host 60 Minutes, and then he did the CBS?
Well, he was 15 years younger than he is today.
Exactly. So South Florida is an interesting place, but you know what's the same? Cycles, and that's what we're seeing right now with these 3 stories. Every single one of these developers, these are habitual offenders. They're all coming back. They want one last dip of that punch that they're all drinking, and they're hoping they're going to be good, and the music's going to keep playing. And if you listen to the overall market, many people are positive. I would be on the bearish side, but Daniel, you want to go through these stories one by one by one?
Yeah, I can look at them. So we're talking about a proposed a plan, and a termination, right? So, well,
Yep,
propose is breaking ground. Four Seasons
yep.
Coconut Grove, they're 50% sold. They're breaking ground. I don't have any qualms about it. We saw what Fort Partners did up in Surfside. They're reselling. I think they did a penthouse at $7,000 a square foot, which is, I mean, it's just setting people's heads aflame. Then we got a local group, 13th Floor Investments, announcing that they are planning to do a Nobu branded residence over there in Brickell. Hey, and I like the Nobu brand. Nobu, actually, I stayed at one. Just found this out. Did you know that it's owned by Robert De Niro? He's an equity
Uh,
owner in
I
Nobu.
I knew he was involved with it, but I don't understand how you invest in a restaurant brand. I mean, short of McDonald's, do
Well,
they
I
actually
mean,
stick
look
around?
at all this Major Food Group stuff. Major Food Group's got the tower going up. Why not
Yeah,
Nobu? Nobu or
but what what
Nobu.
but what's the
No
takeaway? I
bullshit.
mean, yeah, but if you're talking about like a car company or something like that, that's one thing. But a food place, what happens if you lose a chef? What happens when the chef dies?
Yeah, but
What happens if the chef gets me too'd?
I think, hey, look, yeah, Batali, right? Um, no, but the Nobu brand is more. I think food is very centric to it, but it has a lot to do with the Japanese culture. You know, we saw those charter flights going from Orlando to Japan, huh? Right? Like you see things happening here. Is your mind going?
Yeah, but Japan is about tight. It's about efficiency. It's about no wasted space. And I
And
will bet the
we're about
house.
irrational exuberance.
Well, I'm just saying, if I hear Nobu and you're telling me Japanese, I'm thinking a very tight unit, 300 square feet is a two bed.
No, that's gonna be luxury.
All right, so 400 square feet.
So with what are we looking at here? So 13th floor,
Yep.
300 units, 74 stories. I mean, nothing too. That's the guy's name, Matsuhisa, Chef Nobu Matsuhisa. So the lore is that De Niro went and met this guy, and he was so enthralled with his Japaneseness. I don't really have the vocabulary for it, but he started this brand with this guy, and they have hotels all over the world. They got a hotel in Marrakesh, for God's sakes.
Yes, yes. I remember when Nobu first opened up here in South Beach. It was like the biggest thing. It was over there by the what the hell was that? Like about 20th and Collins or so
No,
when
it's
it opened
where
up.
isn't wasn't it in the One Hotel? What used to be the One Hotel, or it's still called the One Hotel? Right up there
I
by
mean,
it used to be called the Gainsfort, right?
yeah. Yep. But before that, it was actually just south of I'm blanking on the condo right at 21st and Collins, caddy corner from the Bass
No,
performing
it's
art.
the that's the W,
Yeah, no, not the W, a little bit
the
farther south.
Satai.
What the hell's it? Satai. It used to be across the street from
Oh, the
Satai.
Nobu was at the Satai. Yes.
Original. Well, it wasn't in Satai because they couldn't afford to rent. They were across the street. In a small little
Oh.
hotel because that's the first time I went there. I was like, "What the hell is this?" Everybody was talking about it at the time, but I
You
don't know.
got comp there though, right? Come on.
No, no,
You
dude.
paid to go to the Nobu?
Well, maybe somebody comped.
Ah,
I definitely did
okay.
not pay. I would not pay for that type of thing. But how do you? I mean, walk me through the logic. Okay, I love this restaurant, and then I'm gonna buy into a condo because it's got what? It's got a restaurant component, and does that mean my maintenance fees are higher, like you saw in a lot of the older buildings? I mean, what's sort of the attraction? Or it's gonna stink like walk. You know, every day when you get home from work, you're going to be sitting there on the balcony and you're smelling the. I mean, what's exactly the appeal? I'm not getting that part.
I don't know. I don't know. What I do know is that the Four Seasons units, 20 stories, Coconut Grove. So,
Okay.
okay, so we're leaving Brickell. We're going down to the Grove. That was the old Kaufman Ross building, right? Right there on the
Yes.
corner of 27th on the north. Is that considered northeast, or is technically that west? But it's on the opposite side of the bay from Bayshore, on the
Yep.
corner of 27th and Bayshore, right? Right across the street from the Ritz Carlton, right
And
next to
and
the
and
Mr. C.
caddy corner from the public boat launch.
Correct, correct. So they took that building down with such precision. It took them like a year to demolish that building. I know because that's how I get to my office every day. Now, supposedly, that is not how they're going to do the Mandarin. The Mandarin's going to be an implosion, which I don't. The environmentalists must be tearing their hair out because it's right on the bay. The Four Seasons site wasn't on the bay, so if they would have imploded it, there was probably asbestos and crap in there, so they couldn't do it. And the Grovites, we know how stingy the Grovites are. They were never going to let them do that. But yeah, the Mandarin, apparently they're going to implode. It's going to be a sight to see.
But talking about the Four Seasons in Coconut Grove, that's right across from the Ritz Carlton. Man,
Yeah,
I
but the
remember
Ritz
when the
Carlton is old. It's tired.
I do remember when they first
And
opened.
very high HOAs. Very high
Is there?
HOAs. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
mean, and it's a condo hotel. It's the same thing as the Carillon, right? The same
yeah.
thing as the Kimpton, the Epic, same thing as the Ritz Carlton in Key Biscayne.
Can the Grove support that type of end user? Isn't that doesn't an
Yes.
end user want sand rather than like
No, New
an actual
Yorkers hate
saline?
sand. It
They
gets
hate
its.
sand.
They hate sand. They don't even like the water. That's why Mocha's selling $20 million houses down in Ponce Davis. They don't give the farce. We went full circle, right? In
Yep.
the 80s, nobody cared about living on the water. That's why you could buy in the Venetian for under $500,000. And
That's why
then
you had Shuckers.
that, right, that's why you had Shuckers. That's why you had what was the place where they just built the Regatta Grove, that big development, uh, where you could sit right there on the bay. What was it called? Also started with an S. They
Oof.
tore it down right next to City Hall. Come on.
Oh, Scotty's.
Scotty's. That's why Scotty's
Yep.
existed, right? You had all these places with access to the water because it was just there. And then people wanted to live in Pinecrest, and you could buy an acre in Pinecrest for $500,000. What can you buy an acre in Pinecrest now for?
Oof. I can't
More.
afford it. Well, I might be
so
able to afford it. I would never pay it.
so 20 stories, Coconut Grove, 70 units, starting under 6 million. I like how South Florida Business Journal doesn't say starting at 6 million, starting under 6 million. I don't know what that means. I don't know how many under 6 million units are left. Supposedly they're 50% sold, and they're aiming for
Wow,
early
they're
2028.
they're not 65% sold. Every sales office I go into, they're always 65% sold. It's just standard. It's part of like the disclosures they have to give that they're 65% sold.
So there's that, and then finally termination of the week, because there's so many. There are so many terminations happening. We do have our favorite of the week, and it's right across the bridge from Peter's favorite neighborhood in town, North Bay Village. For those of you who are just joining us, and it's the what's it called? The Mariners Bay condominium along Biscayne Bay in North Miami. They put it all together for 48.5 million. The damning thing about this is that the last recorded sales in this building from about 2 years ago had it in the low six figures. And when you round up all those numbers, when you sum them up, all the sales for the termination, the mean is something like $1 million a unit. So if you were holding a unit there, you tripled, quadrupled your equity in a few years.
You know what but the thing that stands out to me in terms of that termination is the fact that the developer is a guy who kind of made his name down here when he put up project called a Continuum right on South Point and
Yeah.
effectively like Ocean Drive. So he put that thing up. It did what it did. I would say my perspective, it's a trophy location. It's probably I haven't been in there lately. It's probably like a B plus quality type of building or so. Just from my perspective, some might call it an A minus. And then he laid
I
low. He
like
was
it.
dormant. He wasn't doing a thing, and now he's going everywhere. So
He's
you have
going
to wonder
everywhere.
what suddenly triggered it. He's in Bay Harbor Islands. He is in North Bay Village, and now he's going to effectively North Miami. So what's exactly his niche? His reputation was based on South of Fifth. He was kind of like a one and done, if you will. He put up this project everybody recognized. It's actually just as a point of reference. It has nothing to do with the developer. But Daniel, do you remember the drug bust that went on by the U.S. government working in connection with Interpol? They took down a group called Los Miami. These guys were they were importing cocaine from Colombia
No.
Colombia into Spain, and then they were
Here?
distributing it. Yeah, and there were two brothers, and one of the brothers lived in Miami, and like Miami, the other one lived, I think it was Madrid, Spain. And the thing is, they loved Miami so much that back in Spain they called them Los Miami because these guys were like Miami style. They had the cars, this and that. So I'll never forget they did a simultaneous raid in Spain and in Miami in the continuum. They went in there, knocked on the doors, and the urban legend was
No.
they were taking down the drywall and finding all kinds of stuff in the walls and stuff. Yeah, so Los Miami, and that was an interesting story because many realtors got tied up in there because they were shill buyers on behalf of this group, Los Miami. But anyways, Continuum, it was the location to be, and all of a sudden, the developer Eichner, he disappears, doesn't really do another thing for whatever reason. And by the way, he did take him a while to sell out the Continuum because his prices were so high. It took years
Well,
to ultimately unload them. And now he's building, but he's building in locations that I would say are possibly investable. They're not
well,
exactly something
you've
you
said it
seek out.
multiple times on the show that anybody who goes into North Bay Village year after year after year has just gotten completely burned.
Oh, they get crushed. They get crushed. In
So,
fact, I did a podcast with one of the current commissioners there, and I told him, I said, listen, I got to be honest because I always say North Bay Village is a rest stop on your way from the mainland to Miami Beach. It's kind of like a rest
but
stop on the turnpike when you go into
I,
Orlando, and there's nothing there. And he actually agreed with me.
I need to point out that I misspoke. The Mariner is not opposite from North Bay Village. It's opposite of Bay Harbor Islands, so it's
Yeah,
further
yeah,
north.
farther north.
So
Yeah, yeah,
this
off
is
Broad
up
Causeway.
here.
Yep.
Bay Harbor Islands, totally different story. It's
Yes.
Bal Harbor adjacent. A lot of single family homes on the western island, more condos on the eastern island. Ton of development happening there, and they're selling, right? Because frankly, there's no more space. That's why I'm actually quite bullish on Bay Harbor Islands and Normandy because, I'm sorry, North Bay Village because Bay Harbor Islands is so congested. I mean, you try to drive through this area, Bay Harbor Islands, during rush hour or when school gets out, it is a log jam. Can't do it. Don't even try. Don't try. Don't try to cross through here. It's gonna take you forever.
So,
But we got to go on to the next topic. Buy, sell.
just point if I could, because my office used to be in Bay Harbor Islands. The thing about Bay Harbor Islands, it's for people who are cheap and yet they want certain quality of life, brand new. It's effectively the Edgewater to Brickell, which would be Bell Harbor, and then downtown would be
That's
like Surfside. But that's all one basic community: Bell Harbor, Bay Harbor Islands, and Surfside. So I am a sell because I think this is a last ditch effort. Try to get something to stick because they know if they don't have something going by May, chances are they're shutting it down, and then they're gonna have to think, what the hell do I do with the dirt?
but is this just continuum or is this all three stories?
All three stories across the board.
See, this is where Peter and I differ. And this is why this show is so great. Because I am a pound the table buy on everything that's happening. You
But are you
terminate.
flipping the table? Are you pounding it and flipping it, or is it
No, I'm
just the
not
pound?
pounding it. No, no, no. Come on. Don't call me crazy. What do you think? They asked me to go on the real deal this week? Jesus. They know better than that. But I am a buy. I am a buy. I think
Okay.
the Four Seasons. I think the Grove can absorb end users for the Four Seasons. Absolutely, absolutely. Especially from a builder like Nadim Ashi, Four Partners, and it's Ugo's involved with it too, man. It's Ugo and the guy who built the Four Seasons Surfside. I mean, that's like
Ugo's running ads on billboards at 27th and US 1 above Crooks and Crooks, the old bait shop,
for
trying to
Vita.
sell units in his Vita project. That's all I'm saying about that.
Well, you know what, and I know we got to move on, but that's like it reminds me if you ever been to LA during award season, right? They have all the for your consideration FYC for your consideration, and they put those billboards up for the Academy. So who's in the Academy? It's like several hundred people. That
Yeah, but
billboard on 27th and US 1 is for several hundred people just in the hopes, in the dreams that the one person who's going to buy it is going to see it. That's it. That's it. It's an
so
ad.
so it's somebody coming from Pinecrest heading to downtown Miami, and right above Cooks and Crooks,
Possibly,
they're going to see the
yeah.
sign and say, "I you you know I, if you lived here, you'd be home already." That type of thing.
It. Kinda. And look, aren't you sick of looking at Green and Pinecrest and taking 45 minutes to drive to Brickell? You can look at the water, you can be in Brickell in 10 minutes, and it's gonna be brand new. You don't have to hire the pool guy anymore. I'm a buy. You're a sell. Fishy deals on Fisher Island. Okay, that's rage bait. It's not that fishy. It's pretty straightforward. The related group bought a $180 million lot on Fisher Island. Why on God's green earth would they do that? Well, because Fisher Island is the most expensive, richest zip code in America. Like top level stuff. And related is building, and I'm going to pull it up actually here on the map because we still got the map pulled up. Fisher Island, Fisher Island, Fisher Island. So you see this empty piece here on the north side of Fisher Island. Related's building a condo there. They actually just sold 2 penthouse units for 150 million bucks. So that's big moolah, right? So if you have the demand, why not? Look at this. Look at these. So everybody watching these green top things, those are actually giant fuel tanks. Why do you need giant fuel tanks next to this beautiful marina and golf course? Well, because before there was all of this, you had the port. This drives commerce. What do we do here in Miami, guys, or in South Florida? We do cruises and we do condos. So the condos are great. Everybody donates money to their commissioners and their mayoral candidates, and they're able to get their zoning and their variances. They build condos. Now the cruises, I do not know how they let this slip through. So Related Group came in and purchased this little rectangle here with these fuel tanks, which fuel powers the berths of cruises and ships that have containers. And that's where the fuel is stored. It's called bunker. It's called bunker fuel. If you don't know what bunker fuel is, it's this very viscous. It's actually, I'm pretty sure it's a solid at room temperature. It's like the grossest of the grossest fuel, but that's not the point. The point is that it's stored on Fisher Island. And if we remove these tanks, where are they going to get the fuel from for the port? Where are they going to get it from? If you go up here to Port Everglades, which is the port in Fort Lauderdale, master planned, brilliantly executed. They have the airport and the port right next to each other. So all of these fuel tanks are all right here. Miami, we have more expensive dirt, we have less space, so we got relegated to using just these little weeny fuel tanks. But for $180 million, Related purchased this land. And now the port is saying, you can't build condos here, guys. Like, this is necessary. So now what's happening is Related's like, well, we want to build condos. County, Raquel Regalado saying this is a disaster. The port needs its fuel tanks. And Related isn't in the business of losing money. So if they bought this for $180 million, will they be forced to sell it back to the county? And for how much? What is the county going to be on the hook for this total fumble? How do they sell this in the first place? I mean, is this poor administration at its finest or what, Peter?
Well, a couple things to consider. One, you got eminent domain if need be. Two, you also have a possibility like the Miami Sea Aquarium. It's a situation I give up this in return, you give me that. So I wouldn't discount that. And then finally, there's another site right over there where you catch the ferry that was actually used to be a shipping line. And then they ended up selling it to a condo developer. I think Related had it at one point. Then I think it ended up in the hands of Harvey.
Who owns it
Harvey
now,
Hernandez.
Peter?
It's Ken Griffin, isn't it?
Yeah, he just got approval to build this super yacht marina.
So that was it. And by the way, anybody looking at this, you should know they call that inlet. They call it government cut because the feds actually cut that thing. And that
used
Dodge
to be South
Island,
Point.
yeah, and that Dodge Island you see to the left where the port actually is, that's all man-made. That's from dredging the bay in order to do this. So Fisher Island is sort of an afterthought, but they try to position like it's this excellent place. I've been there a few times. I haven't been there since the pandemic. I will tell you, it's a pain in the ass. You get over to Fisher Island, you got
there's no bridge.
then you got to go on you got to go on a golf court everywhere. Everybody's a little, they're a little bit too entitled for my taste. And and the other thing is a lot of the product sucks. It's just terrible product. So much of it was built so long ago. We do our
Who built most of Fisher Island? Who is the developer for like all of these units
it
here? Who built
it
all this?
it was an insurance company that ended up dumping it. There was one point that was very interesting. It'd be on the northeast corner. That's the part that was relatively new, and then more recently they built just to the northwest of there. If you go to the left, there were a series of towers that went up. There was some kind of royalty, supposed royalty out of Eastern Europe, who had a claim to some of the dirt, and they got a whole big lawsuit, and they were going back and forth. Yeah, a little bit farther east was the second real phase. But I would tell you everything south of that, it's all old crap. I've been in them before. We were playing, yeah, most of that
All this
needs
stuff.
massive renovations. Yeah, quality wise, it's probably like a villa in Kendallandia. But looking at the market, because we
Wow,
we
bold
track this,
statement, Peter Zalewski.
it's not far fetched. I mean, the stuff is just like it's excessive, it's wasteful. It kind of reminds you of 1980s drug dealer type of pads. If you remember with like carpeting and stuff, that's what now I'm sure they've renovated it since the pandemic. But I'm looking at our index and we track vintage and regular. But last time we pulled it was 28th of October. 47 units for sale, 26 were vintage. These are at least 30 years old. So you can see there's a little bit of statistics besides what I'm saying. Guess how many units are traded or going under contract, Daniel, since January 1st? Take a guess. What the average is? The average is
Seven.
about one
One?
per month. One. And they don't even register a score in the index because nothing trades. Nothing's trading. Nothing. Now maybe
So
the new stuff is trading.
how do you run comps in there?
I guess it's going to have to be off an appraisal or something, but nothing trades there. It's a place where it seems great on paper. You ever see a property kind of like maybe Aston Martin and graded out to Miami? On a map, it looks fantastic. Oh, this is great. This is great. Then you actually try to live there, get in and out, and you're like, oh my God, how am I going to do this? Because keep in mind,
Right.
anybody, if you live here and somebody wants to take a ferry over to visit you, they got to wait in line. And if there's too many cars lined up, they put you to the side. They don't let you go because the residents go first, and then they got the staff. Then you got to have your staff come on. The whole process is probably about 20 minutes or so, but sometimes it gets backed up like after work
Which,
and
by
stuff.
the way, I mean, for everything you just described, 20 minutes isn't crazy. I mean,
No,
you
but this
gotta
is
go.
after you've been on the causeway coming from downtown to get to
Yeah,
Ferry
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Island.
yeah.
But think about this. What about Uber Eats? Good luck getting an Uber Eats there. Good luck with any
No.
any
Well, I
kind of
mean,
delivery.
I put him on the chopper.
Yeah, sea dudes. They're coming
I
in the
go from
sea.
my place at 1000 Museum. I gotta get the FAA clearance like 4 or 5 hours in advance because apparently somebody told me this and I have yet to confirm it, but probably fairly easy thing to confirm that the reason why we don't see helicopters just zipping and zopping around is because we have such proximity to the airport. You can't do an impromptu helicopter flight. It has to be planned and register. So this whole imagination, this whole narrative, it's like I got to get to this place quick. Call the chopper. It's on the way. No, you have to schedule it, get FAA approval, and it's a schedule. So everybody who ever talks about private air travel, it's all about time. You know, my time is so valuable. I need to have a private plane. It's not the case with helicopter travel in Miami because of our proximity to the airport. So you can't just be like, call the pilot. I need to be out of here in 20 minutes because I got to get to Fisher Island. It's not happening, and that's why we don't see helicopters landing on the top of the Zaha Hadid building or the Aston Martin, or we won't for all of these buildings that we see going up with the fucking helipad. It's silly.
My take on it is Fisher Island's almost like the sequel to a great movie. You see the great movie being Miami Beach, and then you're like, all right, I got to see the sequel. It's going to be even better. Then you're like, oh my God, what the hell did they do? That's my take on Fisher Island. Some people like it. I don't know if they stay. People I know who've lived there, they've all moved out. And where do they end up?
Well,
They end up places like the Gables.
well, or you can just get a place at the Continuum. If you like the beat,
And look at it.
go to the Continuum. Go to the Apogee.
Yeah, but she's nice.
Apogee's nice.
Yeah.
All right, fishy deals on Fisher Island. Buy, sell, hold. And the question to you, Peter, is The buy response is related is going to just plow forward and build whatever related wants to build. The sell is they're going to have to sell it back to the county, and the hold is, well, the hold's a hold.
George Perez, the related group, is long in the tooth. He's getting old. His kids have taken
But
over.
this
I
is
don't know if
this is JP's. This is JP's baby.
yeah, and I don't know if they have the juice. So this could be a good litmus test to see if they really have juice. David Martin proved he's got some juice. He's doing the Sea Aquarium thing, and I'm sure he's going to parlay that into something. So this could be a really good test. At this point, I'd be a sell. I would take the county side because I think they would put the governmental, the purpose, the
I would
cruises,
hope that
cruise
they
capital
do,
world.
by the
Yeah,
way. There's a very good argument to keep these fuel terminals there. And by the way, I've spoken to some people. Some people. I know some people. I know more. I know like three people, right?
I got a
But
guy.
I got a guy. But the idea that has been presented by, I guess, people who want this condo to go through is, oh, we can just put the fuel terminal somewhere on Dodge Island, at the port. There's no space, guys. You can't fit what they have there on Fisher Island in the port. The port is so spoken for, especially over the last few years, as they continue to build new berths for cruise ships. I don't know if you guys remember, but pre-COVID, they had, I don't know, 4 or 5 berths. I think they have 8 or 9 now.
And you know, I said this before. I used to write about international trade, and shipping out of Miami doesn't make sense. Containers, they ought to have it at Port Everglades and Fort Lauderdale, and Miami ought to just do cruises, and Fort Lauderdale ought to just do cargo because their amount of square footage at Port Everglades is I
No,
think
they
it's
have a
410
tremendous
cargo.
amount of space.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And Miami, I mean, maybe this is a move towards trying to get rid of the cargo. Although those gantry cranes are pretty expensive and they haven't been paid for yet.
Oh, we're still paying for them? That's nice. All right, so we're both selling on that. Handling affordability. This topic is based on an article you sent me
That's right.
about folks leaving the Tri County area, and I think as a journalist you got to be I wouldn't say ballsy, but with all the current pushing against you, because all the headlines are saying people are moving in, people are moving in. We got tech moving in, we got crypto moving in, we got New Yorkers moving in. We'll be talking about that in 20 minutes or so. But what's the data say, Pete?
All right, so this is an article that comes out of the Sun Sentinel, South Florida Sun Sentinel, written by a guy called Anthony Mann. He's been a journalist down here, woo, long, long, long time. Here's the headline: 25% of Florida residents seriously, and I'm doing air quotes in case you're listening, contemplate leaving state because of high cost of living, survey says. Just the first couple graphs. A quarter of Floridians surveyed are seriously considering moving elsewhere because of the high cost of living in the state, Anthony Mann wrote. And when those who are thinking about it are thinking somewhat about it, half are contemplating leaving because of the cost of living. The findings are from a survey released on Monday from the Business and Economic Policy Initiative at Florida Atlantic
And
University up in Boca Raton. And it says the moving consideration rate is striking, as it suggests that while Florida attracts new residents, many of the current ones feel squeezed enough to think about leaving. Remember what I say, 3 years. You got to be here 3 years. If you don't last 3 years, you're not legit. Once you've gone through 3 years, then you're never leaving. And I bet some of these are some of the people who came down in and around the go-go days of the following the pandemic when you didn't have to wear a mask and you could twerk on a police car in Ocean Drive.
every time. So is what the survey out of Sun Sentinel survey reported on by Sun Sentinel, is it saying that affordability is the issue, or do they not like the culture here? What are the respondents saying?
A lot of it has to do with, so affordability is sort of the tip of the spear, and then because you're under all this financial pressure, it just makes everything else a lot more difficult to sort of endure. And don't discount the fact that hurricanes, if you remember, or maybe you don't remember, maybe some people are new, we had back-to-back hurricane years in 24 and 25 when they were rocking and rolling. And a lot of people were down here because of the damage that was sustained in the state of Florida. Many people picked up and left. So we actually had a contraction in population. And remember, last 2 years, we've had a lot of hurricanes. Fortunately, we didn't have any this year, but sometimes it just builds. It's these typical cycles that you see where you go through the process. Everybody wants to be here. It's hot. Then the hurricanes come. Then the costs go up. You say, screw it. I'm out. I'm going somewhere else. You used to go to Homestead. If you were living in Miami, it got too expensive. Now, WLRN was reporting that's too expensive now. They've just voted in new leadership down there because they were too pro-development around Homestead, around the landfill, Mount Trashmore and stuff. But yet, this is what always happens. It's just a repetitive type of cycle. It doesn't surprise me, and I'm sure a lot of people will leave. They'll simply get priced out, and or they're going to do like I always say: you come down here for love, or you come down here because you're running from the law. And if you can make it through 3 years, you're legit. And if you do not get serious within a 3 year period, you're probably going to prison or you're going to rehab.
But I want to talk about affordability for a second. So
Yep.
And something we talk about a lot here, and it's sort of an overarching theme as we get into talking about the elections this week here in Miami and up in New York. A lot of the dialogue around, a lot of the rhetoric was regarding affordability. So much so
Yes.
that the Trump administration starts talking about affordability after Mamdani went to New York. So affordability is the screw, and we're twisting the screw because that's getting a rile out of people. That's getting people to show up to vote. Now, at the Real Deal, and I looked through some of the highlights. I didn't go because I actually had to work these days. But some of the panelists talking about office space, talking about high-end real estate, high-end condos. Now, high-end condos are all well and fine, and they make people a ton of money because if you're selling for $1,500 a square foot, like your margins are pretty good, as opposed to selling for $500 a square foot. But and I gotta call something out. People talk about overbuilding. There's no overbuilding. Well, overbuilding what? What are we overbuilding? We talk a lot about in this show about multiple markets. You have the 10 million plus market. You have the 5 million plus market. You have multifamily market. These are all different markets, but people just throw the umbrella of real estate over all of these markets, and they're very different. So yes, do I think we're overbuilding some things? Oh yeah, I think $1,200 to $1,500 a square foot condos. I think we're overbuilding the shit out of them. Are we overbuilding multifamily apartments? I don't think so. I think they're being absorbed. Are we? What about workforce condominiums? The product selling for between $400 and $700 a square foot. I don't think we're building enough of them. You want to attract the corporations who would otherwise be in Atlanta or in Charlotte or these other markets in the Southeast. Okay, well, not all of these companies are tech companies or high finance companies paying their employees mid to high six figures. These are people who are making $150,000, maybe $200,000 a year. These aren't people who are all buying $5 million places. So we need to build, I'm not going to say affordable, because affordable makes people think like Section 8, federal housing. No, just regular people housing. Sub $1,000 a square foot, not $200 a square foot, not $1,500 a square foot, like $650, $800 a square foot. And I get, and I'll get off my soapbox in a second, but I think if we build more of this rah that we talk shit about here on the show all the time, it could actually be rah if developers build for these people, because then these companies who are trying to attract people here, the people are going to come and say, oh great, I don't have to live in Homestead. Because that's the reality. You come down here, you got an office in Blue Lagoon, and your boss goes, okay, go buy a place. Dude, you're driving an hour plus to get to your office.
And you're paying tolls.
And you're paying tolls. Or unless you're taking the rapid. Have you taken the bus? The new rapid bus? That's not on your commute.
No. Whenever I have to go down there, I get off at the last stop on the Metro Rail, and then I'll just simply schlep it down, Keg South or whatever.
But yeah, that's my affordability rant. I think there are some developers who have sort of made it their MO to solve for that, but there is way too much of this subpar, really expensive condo product. On the high end, the Fort Partners, Four Seasons stuff, they'll be fine. They'll be fine. It's all these freshman and sophomore developers who are just trying to make their margin, and they ain't nobody. Maybe they sign a licensing deal with Labubu uh, and try to sell some condo units. And those guys, when the music stops, that's when you're going to start seeing Peter's ominously foretold foreclosures.
Well, what I would tell you is some of these developers that you're referring to, these people who haven't done at least three deals, put three on the board. Like I said, you got to get the battle scars
Right?
in
You
order
got to
to
get
sort of put
three.
them in the. Yeah, you got to get three. So remember, it takes 5 to 7 years to do one of these projects. So a lot of the stuff that's probably hitting right now, it was planned years ago when the market was much different. So their price estimates, their projected budgets and everything, they could be completely out of whack if we see any kind of pullback, which is what I have been calling for. So, it's kind of all up in the air. And then in terms of people going back to the office, remember, you could work from home. That's why everybody came down here besides working on a police car on Ocean Drive. So people came down here. They were working from home. They were working for New York, out of New York, or working out of Silicon Valley for Google. That was the big catalyst, the impetus for all of this new construction that's coming
Right.
online. That's why the pricing was what it was. That's why you went into Miami World Center area. Without that, there's no way in hell they'd be putting up the number of towers in Miami World Center area, which is right in there between the MacArthur Causeway and the Miami River. But now it's all starting to come to, the rubber's meeting the road, and it's becoming very challenging. And the overall sentiment, going back to the story, it's saying that only 12% of those surveyed have a excellent outlook for the Florida economy. 29% said it was good, compared to 32% who said it was fair, and 28% who said it was poor. And I'm guessing the people saying it's poor, they're probably on the lower end. They probably didn't come from a silver spoon, and or they probably don't have big cash coming in. They probably got normal expenses. And these are the people I always talk about. When you're east of Interstate 95, you're in a trading pit like back in the day when you sold stocks. You didn't get on Robinhood and play on an app. You went into a pit. You'd make a call to your broker. Your broker would make a call to somebody on the floor. Somebody on the floor was a runner. They would take the order. They take it to the person in the pit. That's where everybody's yelling and screaming and stuff like that. So when you're east of 95, traders. When you're west of 95, real people. How much do diapers cost? How much is gasoline? How much is milk? And I think what we're seeing here with this survey is basically what I was talking about. East of 95, they could care
Do
less.
whatever they
West of
want.
95, real people. What does it cost? Why are you doing this? They don't understand. Tremendous bifurcation, and just like they said, Daniel, this split in the economy, where you got the K economy, where those who are on the in the upper end, it's going straight up. Looking at Nvidia, well, not recently, but looking at Nvidia stock, stuff like that, and then everybody on the other side, they are struggling. I'm not going to say SNAP
Well,
benefits,
this
but
is,
people are
but
struggling.
we gotta jump to the next topic. But what Peter's talking about, east of 95, west of 95. Let's take a look at this real quick. This is 95, guys, right here,
Yep.
right down the middle.
Yep.
Okay, east of 95 is about, I don't know, 2 inches on my screen. West of 95 is the rest of the world until we get to the Everglades, and this is what we're talking about. I mean, people need places to live, and we are boxed in, right? You got ocean to the south and to the east. You got Everglades to the west, although some people might want to call the Everglades something else. We just a line, right? And we're talking about the urban development boundary, the UDB. And then to the north, you have Broward. And yeah, who wants to live in Broward? I'm kidding. Broward's great. But we don't have a ton of space to play with. So we have to, good responsible planning and zoning.
That's it.
Administrators work with your developers work with your administrators, or just donate to their campaigns. We're going to talk about that in a second. Buy, sell, hold on handling affordability. Are we handling it?
I'm a buy that we're handling, given the fact we have Homestead. You get rid of the Homestead exemption, I think the market opens up tremendously. So, and change the zoning, but I am a buy that we're handling it the best we can.
I
Not a
think
hard buy. This is like a
yeah, I
little
think we're
whisper buy.
handling it. I think we can always be better.
But a good recession tends to solve a lot of problems when it comes to housing.
So There was an election on Tuesday. Peter, you wound up voting. They sent you on a wild goose chase so you could secure your ballot, huh?
That's right. Yeah, yeah. It was funny. I walked into the polling station with a passport, and they said, "You have like a driver's license or something?" I was like, "Dude, did they? I mean, I know the U.S. passport was based on the surveys. It's been devalued compared to like Singapore
But
and
you
other places."
can't
I was
even
like,
vote with a passport anymore.
they're like, "Yeah, we don't want to see it, but let's see a driver's license." I was like, "Wow, this is crazy." But no, I ultimately did go there and vote. It was like 5 items on the city of Miami ballot, and it was by the time I got there and back, but the actual voting took about 30 seconds.
So everybody who isn't from Miami, sorry, this might be less interesting for you, but big thing, the biggest thing I think that came out of this election was the turnout. So turnout for this municipal election, City of Miami. We're not talking about Miami Beach. We're talking about City of Miami. So we had 21.67% of eligible voters turn out. So 1 in 5. Over the last several cycles that I tracked, 2017, 2019, 21, and 2023, the mean was something like 15, 16%. So significant gains in voter turnout. And that correlates a lot with what we saw in New York City, which was like the biggest turnout in I don't know how many decades. But people are voting. So what did they vote for? They voted for mayor. They voted for District 5 commissioner. Christine King swept that because that's what she does. District 3, very contentious. That was Joe Carollo's district. He stepped down to run for mayor. His political career is over, but it's okay because Frank Carollo, his brother, will probably step into that seat. Why is that important? Because District 3 is massive. And so that west of 95 crowd that we're talking about, well, District 3 straddles 95. North, south, east, west. I would mean, would you argue that outside what District 2 is Coconut Grove, Damian Pardo? I think District 2 and District 3 are probably two of the most, I wouldn't say powerful, but
Influential.
relevant,
Yep, relevant.
influential and
Relevant's a good way
relevant
to describe
districts
it.
in terms of real estate.
Yep. Especially
So,
up
so
going forward, 100%.
yeah, so going forward, so I did a little bit of a sleuthing because Peter loves data, and we both love data. The problem is that with data you need to analyze it, and for all the shit I talk about, Chat GPT and AI and all this fun stuff, it's actually quite good at reading just like line item spreadsheets. So when I ask, hey, Chat GPT, take all of these campaign finance reports and get me some insights. You want to see what it
Interesting.
said? Let's see what it said.
Please, yeah.
I gotta find the tab. Where's the freaking tab for this? Chat GPT. Um, and I'm always going to admit what I'm using. I'm not trying to sound smarter than the average bear because who wants to go through this? Why wouldn't I utilize ChatGPT? So Emilio Gonzalez and Eileen Higgins, they are the runoff candidates. There's going to be a runoff election in December,
For
and
mayor. Yep.
for mayor, I'm sorry, we were talking about District 3. That's Frank Carollo. Um, Eileen Higgins, Emilio Gonzalez, Republican, Eileen Higgins, Democrat. They both raised respectively $51,000 to Emilio Gonzalez and $40,000 Eileen Higgins from developers alone, right? And developer, I mean, and just like in any campaign contribution, you're gonna hedge your bet. So if you're a developer and you have a project in District 3, then you're probably going to give campaign contributions to every commissioner candidate in District 3, because why not? The most you can donate is $1,000, and you can do that anonymously. You can do that in your name. You can run it through a PAC. There's all these different ways to eat that Reese's. But what's really standing out is about 40%. So not quite 50, not quite half, but about 40% of those business contributions came from developers across the board. Across the board. What do you think of that, Peter? I mean, is that just expected? You used to be a financial reporter, and I'm sure you've looked into this in the past. Is that typical?
It's I never really focused on the political side of it, and not having a baseline to compare it to. It makes it a little bit difficult Sorry, I don't know if you can hear that. I got somebody bothering me. I kept my WhatsApp off and somebody was bothering me. Yeah, no, I
No, it's all
haven't really
good.
looked at it that closely. I mean, Tim, so, sorry about that. I have my do not disturb on and somebody keeps calling me over and over and over.
Because you know why? You know why? It's probably a bunch of New York buyers, Peter. You
Oh
hear
no,
that
no,
all coming here.
I know why. The reason they're calling me is that I put out a podcast last night with a investor who's buying units at 80% discounts, vintage units. So people are so
People are
one
like,
guy's annoyed about that.
I want an 80% discount on vintage units.
No, he actually is. He picked up one for 30 grand, $200,000 value.
So you know,
These are vintage units.
I but without having to backtrack too much. Okay, so 80 and I want to put a pin in the election thing for a second. 80% discount on vintage units.
Yep,
However, at the Mariner Bay condominium that the Continuum just bought out, they paid almost $1 million a door, or a 300 to 400% premium on what
yep.
the market rate for those units are. And I understand why somebody's buying at an 80% discount, because they want to hit their cap rates. Continuum doesn't give a shit about cap rates. They're raising the building and they're building condos. But what's do you have to wear two different hats? Are you either buying for purpose A, or fuck that, I'm not renting it out and we are just knocking this thing down and we will pay whatever it takes, because our analysis, our hypothesis is that we'll be able to sell these things for $2-3 million a door.
Well, again, it starts with what can I sell it for? Whatever you can
Right.
sell it for, what is my profit margin? You take off that, typically 30%. Whatever the remaining 70% is, you can allocate 10 to 20% of that overall cost towards land. So in a situation like that, where it's $1 million a door, what these people ultimately achieved, that to me
It was
sounds
a it
like
was
a
a $40 million
developer.
buyout, right?
Yeah, but that to me sounds like a developer who really kind of wants to get in the game, not a patient developer. And given the market we're in right now, I don't know why you'd be rushing to do anything. I would almost be sitting back waiting for people to, call me up and say, "Hey, listen, I want to sell," rather than pursuing this type of stuff. So, there's always a falling knife scenario. People think land is worth a lot. When the market goes to hell, you can't give land away because it's a responsibility, it's a cost, and you can't do anything unless you set up like a Wynwood Yard. Like if you remember Wynwood Yard, it was basically
They
just
just
this
put the
development
food
type.
trucks.
Yeah, that
Well,
so they
well,
said, what are we going to
you know what
do
the
to
food
make
truck of
money?
2025 is, right? You know what the covered land play is of 2025. Food
No,
trucks
tell
are
me.
out. Paddles in,
Yeah.
baby. Paddle,
Oh,
paddle,
so
paddle.
paddleboard.
Oh yeah, man. Come here. Let me show you. There, I actually saw this morning. There's a city of Miami, South Miami City public hearing, because they want to put paddle courts on top of this municipal parking garage right here.
Makes sense.
Yeah, why not? Why not? It's totally underutilized. Wait, that's not the parking garage. The parking garage is this parking garage. There you go, on 73rd. Yeah, they want to put paddle on top of that. Why the hell not? They're going to be redeveloping Sunset Place and Government Center over here. That's like several hundred, high six figures, high nine-figure redevelopment play over here. And then in terms of other covered land plays for paddle, they've been talking about putting them on Grand Avenue. They have them here in where is the 395? This lot here
Yep.
is all paddle. Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? This. See this here?
Uh-huh.
This is like 15 paddle courts.
Wow.
Covered land play.
Yeah. Yeah.
Why
I
why
don't know.
why put food trucks if you can rent out these courts? You know what they rent out these courts for, Peter? They rent out these courts for something like $130 an hour.
And you
And you
got
can
four
fit
people
two of them on
splitting
a
it or
tennis
two.
court, roughly.
Yeah.
So half
Yeah,
the
yeah,
size of
yeah.
a tennis court, you can rent them out for exorbitant sums, and you just wait in for the next cycle.
Talking about the next cycle and talking about this election. So basically, it seems like what you got going on is you got old school City of Miami, former city manager, and you got this county commissioner who lives in Miami. What I love about her, I don't know if it's still the case, but she didn't have a car. She used to take public transportation.
Well,
She'd ride
but
the
she
trolley.
doesn't live on Coral Way. She's like the head of the DDA, right? She's in downtown.
Yeah, she's over in graded onto Miami. I think Edgewater or something. So and she's about getting planning and zoning under control. She's about expediting the process.
I love
She's
that.
also about and she's also about making it. She's talking about this affordability. With the development in and around trade stations and things like that. So you really got a yin and a yang. You kind of got the old school way of doing it, which would be the candidate Emilio, who's a Republican. I heard an interview today on WLRN, and then you got Eileen, who's a Democrat, and comes out and says she's a Democrat, even though locally it doesn't really matter political party, but they're kind of both going that way. So this theoretically could be a generational shift in leadership. You mentioned the fact that Joe Carollo, his political career, he announced is over. Joe's been around since for 20 something years.
Forever.
Yeah, he is part of the Miami lure, and to see him go the way of maybe like an Andrew Cuomo out of New York, you got to wonder if maybe some of the pandemic era transplants who came down here, if some of these changes. I mean, Eileen Higgins, just to give you context, she would be the first non-Latin, if elected mayor, first
30
non-Latin in
years.
something like 20 years. And she's going up
More.
against a gentleman who was a city manager who's Cuban American. So we really have this dramatic change going on. And then the question becomes, is it because of politics? Is it because of generational? Or is it because of ultimately transplants who came down during the pandemic?
Or
And
or is she just really well spoken and capable? Listen, I watched the mayoral debates.
yeah,
She was the only one on those stages who was prepared, well spoken. Her name is Eileen Higgins, but she was born in New Mexico and she speaks Spanish. She was a foreign service officer. Really smart lady. Really smart lady. And from folks who have been in close conversations with her, she is fiery. So you don't get to where she is in this town without having claws.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah,
so I hope she does well. And by the way, when we were talking about this 2 or 3 weeks ago, I said, you guys can look back at the YouTube videos. I said Eileen Higgins or Emilio Gonzalez would both be excellent choices for the city. I
yeah,
didn't
yeah.
actually think.
I heard his interview today on WLRN. They gave him like 15, 20 minutes or so, and definitely a capable person, somebody who knows how to run this city and somebody who knows where all the bodies are buried. Actually testified against Joe Carollo on some of the cases related to ball and chain lawsuit and stuff like that. So really, what it sounds like it's going to come down to is it's going to come down to: do you want somebody who understands the current rules of engagement, or do you want somebody who's probably going to just torch them and try to go in a different direction? And that'll be the decision we make next month when the runoff occurs between the two of
I'm
them.
not making a
But
decision.
both are qualified.
I'm unincorporated, dude. I'm just watching from the sidelines. I'm in Bay 17 at the Cricket World Series.
But understand though, it's going to have a bearing. I mean, because in theory, we could be leaving an era where basically the developers rule the roost, and we could be moving into an
Well,
era
if
where
if
suddenly
if
the
uh,
public.
if Tallahassee gets rid of home of property taxes, then certainly we're not. Nobody's going to know which way is up. If you get, I mean, and this is a whole other thing, but if you get rid of property taxes, it breaks the world order because nobody knows who to donate to. Nobody knows who to make contributions to because if
Yeah,
property taxes drive the coffers, then we know that we got to pay this guy to get this thing done. But if it's not property taxes, then the commissioners and the administrations, they don't have to give the developers the time of day.
and to this point that there might be something dramatic going on is again, WLRN, they did a South Florida Roundup today. And by the way, if you don't listen to South Florida Roundup, you should. It runs on Friday. You can
It's
pick it up on
fantastic.
Spotify. Yeah, yeah. So Hialeah elected a 27-year-old as their mayor, somebody who
Wow.
went against the system, went against the mayor who had the backing and the support of all of the brass, and basically went completely the other direction. 27-year-old against an established mayor, and the voters decided to
You're
go in a
talking
completely
about
different direction.
Hialeah, not Manhattan.
Hialeah, perfect segue. but
Um,
but but something's happening, and I don't want to say 1960s type of changes, but there's something dramatic that is underway. The question
Well,
is it just is it an anomaly or is it something bigger?
I mean, listen, whatever your political ideology, left, right, center, this, that, what I need to see is more of what we saw on Tuesday. 20, that's the big number, 20.67%.
But it's still it's
21.67%. It
still
was over.
pitiful though.
No, it's
Yeah.
pitiful. It's 1 in 5. But it's loads and leap years, light years better than what we were getting before. We were getting 14, 15, 16%. That, you know what 15% is, Peter? 15% is if you go to Starbucks and you wait in line behind 20 people. 15% is 3 of those people went to vote. That's what that means. It's awful, but but if you get 4 people, that's 20%, right? And then you scale that up, and then people vote. So whatever you want to do, just vote. Just vote.
So I mean, if you really wanted people to vote, you do like they did in Australia. When I lived in Australia, I wasn't a citizen. I was I don't know, a temporary resident, whatever. And I wasn't illegal. I was legal, but there it's mandatory. And if you don't vote, you get a fine. They actually fine
That
you
is brilliant. When you file
if you
for your
don't vote.
taxes, whatever.
Yeah, at the time it was like $75 or something, which was
Great.
it was excessive. But in this way, everybody turns out smart, dumb. Everybody turns out, and you're able to get a good reflection of
But
what's sort of
that's
going on in society.
fantastic.
Yeah, yeah.
So the real winners of Miami mayor race, developers. Well, if you believe in money buys it, then you're a hard pound the table, flip the table, buy on it. Um, Developers did contribute a disproportionately large amount of money to all of these races. I'm a buy.
So I almost feel like developers are getting left behind with these
Oh,
yeah, with these two politicians, from what I'm hearing. Left behind in the fact that not that they won't be welcome in this town because they always will because of property taxes, assuming they stay where they
for
are.
now.
Where when you pay your property tax, a third goes to the city, a third to the school board, a third to the county. But it almost feels like there's this movement as part of the overall, from everything I'm hearing, to make it more so about the residents, the actual individuals and their quality of life and things that can improve their situation, at least from what I'm hearing. So what would that be, Daniel, if I'm thinking the developers are in a lesser spot than they were before the election? Is that a sell?
Yeah, it's a sell.
Yeah, I would be a sell on that at this reading. Now, again, we're going to do it in December, so we'll see.
So, and and you know what? I want you to buy, sell, hold on this before we even start talking about it. Mamdani, the Florida Realtor of the Year.
No way in hell.
I'm selling it too, Peter. But Peter, I want to hear your rationale before I get on my soapbox.
First and foremost, we went through this experience of people moving down here and working from home. We went through that during the pandemic, and we saw what happened. The prices spiked. They did whatever they did. Then J.P. Morgan, if of Jamie Dimon of J.P. Morgan calls everybody up and says, "Get your ass back in the office. Everybody's got to come back." They own these condos down here. They got to try to rent them. They're losing everything on the condos. They're subsidizing people to live in these units that they overpaid on because they thought this was a forever condo. And unless there's a decision by corporations in New York to allow their key people to actually work from home, I don't see how it's justifiable. Many of these people have already gone through this experiment. So we've gone through the experiment. We know how it works. We know what the technology is. We know what the reality is, but we also know at the end of the day, these CEOs want their brass admin. They want them in and around. Why? Because of synergy, because of everything else. I don't see how the wealthy types are going to be able to come down here. Now, it's one thing if you're Jeff Bezos and you're long in a tooth and you're retired. You can move down here and say you're going to set up a business. You're not going to do shit. You're simply doing like all the people do as they retire. They move down to Florida. That's not a big deal. So those people who probably are ready,
But they're coming
they're
anyway.
past their yeah, but they're past their shelf life. Those people are going to come. There's no question. They can claim it's taxes, whatever. But I'm talking about the real people. And then the flip side of that, as to why they're not coming, if Mondani is successful in his plans, why the hell would you want to leave? Dude, if you're getting all this free stuff, why would you want to leave and then come down to Miami and try to have to hustle You don't have public transportation for the most part, unless you're just taking the Metro Rail or the trolley and you're kind of coastal. Why would you pass on it? I mean, if you're able to save all this money because you don't have to pay for these things because everything is free and you got government grocery stores and stuff like that, you can take that side cash and come down here and mess around, with the extra money. So it's kind of hard for me to understand how this could go forward, given the fact we've just finished this experiment. And we saw what that previous story was about affordability and survey and how many people are uncomfortable and and sort of turned off by what South Florida has to offer in terms of affordability.
Could I say it better myself? Probably not, but I'll try.
Please.
Um, I don't think he's. First of all, Mamdani's not a realtor, so how can he be the Florida Realtor of the Year? I don't know what his real estate license is. So the Florida Realtor of the Year will probably be the Jills again because they sell $1 billion a year in real estate. So that's one. Two, will he maybe be the Mayor of the Year? I don't know. I'm rooting for him though. Like, how can you not root for this guy? What the heck? But we're not going to get political. We're going to talk about the real estate implications of it. New Yorkers have been coming down here. I'm actually reading a great book right now by Andrew Ross Sorkin. You might know him. He's the guy who wrote Billions, the HBO show, and he's a financial journalist. That's why the show
Yeah, he hosts
is so awesome
Squawk
because
Box.
he's great. So Andrew Ross Sorkin is writing this book. He wrote this book called 1929. 1929. I'm paraphrasing, but an excerpt from the book is Palm Beach, Wall Street of the South. Guys, the book is called 1929 because it's about the 20s, like 100 years ago. They've been using this Wall Street of the South narrative for 100 years. Why? Because that's what we do. We market, right? We market. And people like South Florida, not because of taxes and this. It's way more primitive than that. You want me to tell you what it is, Peter?
Tell me.
It's warm here. It's warm. Go to New York in February. People still love it because it is don't get me wrong, New York is amazing. But you cannot. There's not enough AI in the world that can solve this problem that in February, New York is cold as shit. Nothing's going to change that. So people come here. People come here. They're always going to come here because they don't like slipping on black ice. They don't like putting scarves around and shit. And the old rich guys like to see girls in bikinis, and maybe they don't like sand, but it's okay because they're up in their tower anyway. So New Yorkers are coming here, but it's not because of this guy. Maybe some will come and there'll be some headlines, but they're coming here anyway. They will continue to come here because we still have the taxes. The tax thing is just like a bonus, right? Like, wow, of course. Why wouldn't I go there, right? Because what are you going to go do? Go to Texas? Go to Galveston? The waterfront real estate in Houston is fantastic. No, they're going to come here because the weather's nice, because we are pro-business. We have a tax thing. But to say it's because of this guy, come on, guys. Like, and then 4 out of 5 of these people didn't even vote.
Yeah, but Daniel, okay, so let's take that a step further. So they're saying a lot of people in the real estate industry on the sell side, they're saying that Mamdani is a great thing for Florida because it's going to bring all of these prospective buyers out of New York down here. Okay, so let's just assume they all come down here, and what are they going to find? They're going to find that we have an oversupply amount of condos on the market. I don't know about single family, but I know the condo market is flooded. Way too many damn units, prices are way too high, rents are too low. So are they making the spin because the other side or the one of the legs of the stool, i.e., the international buyer, primarily coming from Latin America, who now has a chilling effect because of the
You
immigration
bring up a
policy?
that's a very astute observation, Peter. So 49% of pre-construction bought by foreigners. Of that 49%, in some submarkets, 90 plus, 95 plus percent are bought by Latin Americans. That's numbers from last year, pre all of this, and all of this meaning alligator Alcatraz, immigration, yada, yada, yada. Now, we've spoken about this from your clients, your buyers who have come from Latin America,
Yep.
my buyers from Latin America, and we speak the truth, guys. They don't really give a shit. A lot of them, the ones with money come here, they want to buy, Like, that's your problem, I guess. Now, does that change when we go to lower price points? Like the guys selling $1,200 per square foot units? Do the people who don't care just the people buying, $2,000 per square foot plus units? What happens, to your point, when that, if not when, if that buyer pool dries up? Do we really have to market to New Yorkers? Do we have to market to what we talked about, Eastern Europeans? Do we have to market to the Turks? Do we have to market to the Brits? Where are these buyers going to come from? And that's a really good observation you make there.
Yeah, so it just seems like the industry, because this is what it does, and like you said, they've been doing it for 100 years. And by the way, another good book is Bubble in the Sun, which talks about the Florida land boom of the 1920s that
Yeah, George
ultimately
Merrick,
lead to
right?
19 yeah, that lead to 1929. So these two books side by side, I think would give you some sort of great perspective. But at the end of the day, real estate is one of the three legs of our stool, our economic stool. And right now, the condo market is not doing well, and so many people eat off of that big game that they're trying anything they can to go ahead and try to make it seem positive. So maybe they're trying to convince people by saying it enough and enough and enough that you need to flee New York City, you're going to come down to Florida. But you're not going to find it sales anymore, Daniel. First Service Residential, the big property management company, they came out with their survey, their benchmark 2025 high
Oh,
rise edition.
it came out? I didn't see it.
Yeah, yeah. And what it said is the average maintenance fee per square foot per month in Miami-Dade County is $1.15. And it said at
Is
Broward
that
County and
because I
Palm
know
Beach.
let me ask you though, they extrapolated it last year. They did like sub
Yeah,
300
yeah,
units
they
and
did.
more than 300.
Yeah, now they combined it together. They
So
they
so
combined it
the
together.
the
So it's
the
115 a foot on Dade, and it's $1.02 a square foot on Fort Lauderdale. And what they said is New York is $1.55. New York City was $1.55 a square foot per month in terms of maintenance. So
what's the beach? Did they pull out the beach?
no, they just put Miami-Dade County in one, and then they put Broward and Palm Beach as the second one. It was based on where they kind of had their properties. But I guess the point I'm kind of making, okay, 155 on New York City maintenance fee, and then you look at what you have going on in
Well, that's a
Miami-Dade County.
significant discount.
Yeah, it's a significant discount, but the purchase price nowadays in South Florida, I mean, Greater Downtown Miami, 1.3 million a door, and if you turn around and you try to rent it out, you're going to get $3,600 a month in median rent. We ran
The
we
cap's
ran
not
our
there, right?
version of we ran a version of a cap rate, and for Greater Downtown Miami, it's under 1%. So
Under
what
1%.
inflation's running at 3. So what is your
Well,
impetus to
you're
go ahead
counting.
and
No. They're counting on the appreciation.
but again though, if you're losing your Latin or international buyer,
Right.
of
Who's going to
which
take you out?
who
That's the
takes you
question.
out? So
Who takes you out?
so the question is, the New Yorkers who might be coming down here, my recommendation is they talk to the New Yorkers who own a place down here because of work from home. They've now gotten called back to New York City. Those two should actually do the deal themselves up in New York City, because chances are it's gonna be the same type of product. I'm being a little facetious, but I would argue there's a lot of people who came down during the pandemic who are now trying to unload their units. They're adding to this
Oh no, no,
excess
no! I've
supply.
I've 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 seen it. I've seen it. I've seen it
Yeah.
personally. I've 1,000% seen it. Um, but well, we don't have to buy sell hold because well, we did it already. But that puts us at about time. Well, we're a little over time. But if you stuck with us throughout the whole show, I tip my hat to you. I'm sure Peter would too. But that is episode 25 of Buy Sell Hold. We should have our 6-month anniversary party next week because that will be episode 26, 52 weeks in a year. So that would make it 6 months of Buy Sell Hold live every Friday at 4, guys. We hope you stick with us. Things are heating up here. It's winter buying season. There's a lot going on. We have more and more stories. Peter and I have to fight over what to put in the rundown now because summer is over and there's a lot to talk about. But we will see you all next week at 4 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. No, Eastern Daylight Time. No, we're back in Standard Time. Summer's daylight.
Yes.
Summer's daylight. Standard Time. We are here every Friday Eastern at 4. Thanks, guys. Have a good one. And